Okay, I got my key.
Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me for a moment of silence. Thank you. Please silence your phones and pagers. Before we get started with citizen concerns, I'm going to read a press release that was issued today, April 24th, 2018. Much discussion and speculation is Woodbury critically needed mental health and disability services continuously provided to our citizens. The agreement that defines the rights and obligations of each member county during fiscal year 2019. At the same time, we are continuing to evaluate other options that Woodbury County has asked to join the Rolling Hills Community Services Region. Citizen concern. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. My name is Elizabeth Rosenbaum. I'm here at the Woodbury County Board of Supervisors to introduce myself and to announce a donation that will be made to celebrate the courthouse birthday. I'm the regent of the Martha Washington chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution. The Daughters of the American Revolution was founded in 1890. Members of our group are direct lineal descendants of Revolutionary War patriots. Our group has three major objectives, that is education, historical preservation, and patriotism. And I'm here today because of the historical preservation piece of our group. We as a chapter wish to recognize and honor the 100th birthday of the Woodbury County Courthouse. When I made inquiry as to how to best do this with my friend Kenny Schmitz, I was advised that there was a need for a permanent museum quality display case to preserve the articles from the time capsule that was recently opened. These precious items should be on display for all of the public to view and enjoy in the future. I approached the members of our chapter, several of which are here today with me, and there was overwhelming support to purchase this case for the courthouse. So therefore, it gives me great pleasure to advise you that a donation of $2,000 will be made to the courthouse by the Martha Washington chapter of the DAR for the purchase of a display case just like the one that's up there now on loan from the museum. It gives us great pride to do this. I'm a local attorney. I'm upstairs all the time. I love my courthouse. I'm a wannabe architect. I love this building. So this is just a trifecta for me, and we hope that you will accept this donation, and we welcome any questions and hope that you will enjoy this for years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't think we'll have any trouble accepting that.
All right.
That sounds remarkable and very much welcome. Thank you.
So do we have to move to receive that?
You can. Be a good thing.
I'd move to receive.
Second. Motion by Taylor, second by Ratty, to receive a donation from the Daughters of the American Revolution in the amount of $2,000. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The motion obviously carries 5-0. Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Do we have any other citizen concerns? I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll move it.
I will second the motion by Raddick. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Carries 5-0. Consent agenda. Items 3 through 7 constitute a consent agenda of routine action items to be considered by one motion. Items pass unanimously unless a separate vote is requested by a board member. Item 3 is approval of the minutes for the April 17, 2018 meeting. 4 is approval of claims. 5, receive the appointment of Joseph Allen as a Danbury City Council member. 6, board administration, public bidder. Approval of resolution for notice of property sale for parcel ending in 028, also known as 1621 Villa Avenue on May 8th at 4:35 p.m. Item 7 is human resources. A, approval of memorandum of personnel transactions. B, approval of request to deauthorize county position. C, authorization to initiate hiring process. And D, approval of dates and financial impact of the 2018 annual Fall Safety Day and Health Wellness Fair. I will move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
But do you want to promote or say anything about the wellness fair?
Motion by DeWitt, second by Mr. Rogers.
Thank you.
I'm Melissa Thomas, Human Resources. Every year, I think for the past 6 years here at the county, we've had a health and wellness fair in the fall. This year is going to be a little earlier because of the election, and we provide vendors for our staff to talk to, have any questions and other healthy ideas for our staff. Also, we'll have an annual fall day, a safety day. It'll be held at Dorothy Pico, and that is our conservation of secondary roads, and then all the guys get together and we learn a lot about safety and other issues and mandatory training. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Passes 5-0. Item 8, presentation of award certificate to Brian Marin. Is Brian here? He is not. We would like to congratulate the young man for a donation of now 12 gallons of blood to the LifeServe Blood Center, where this young man will be getting a 4 hours paid time off from the county. Very generous to have someone give back to the community in that way. Very much appreciated, man. Thank you. We've got about 2 minutes before we have a hard set time of 4:40. Item 9, Board of Supervisors, approval of resolution for the rededication of the 100th anniversary courthouse cornerstone. I will ask Mr. Taylor if he could keep it to about 2 minutes.
I'll try my best. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So this is the resolution that we're asking for approval for the rededication. These events, as you hopefully know, will take place May 1st to the 5th, and there's going to be lunch and learns and a rededication of the time capsule that will happen. We'll actually have a Board of Supervisors meeting on that Tuesday, and so this is the proclamation that Jim Jung, myself, Matthew Ung worked on, and so if I can read it very quickly, I will.
Yes.
Okay, so this is whereas the Board of Supervisors in 1915 chose William L. Steele, an architect of unbridled imagination and a protege of Frank Lloyd Wright and Louis Sullivan, to design our Woodbury County Courthouse. And whereas with associate architects George Elmsley and William Purcell, William Steele presented the board with bold and intricate plans for what is now the largest public prairie school building in the United States, the style garnering its name from long horizontal framing and arrowhead motifs, paying homage to the horizons of Midwestern prairies. And whereas the Board of Supervisors, including Henry Metz, E.C. Copeland, Robert Anderson, Edward Craddock, and John Lorden, unanimously approved the plans, and in 1916 began construction of the $850,000 courthouse, which utilized local union labor and Roman-style brick from Sioux City Brick and Tile, and was completed in 1918. And
whereas the board on December 30th, 1918 adopted a resolution that stated after, quote, the courthouse has been completed and occupied with comfort and satisfaction for some months, the supervisors extend, quote, sincere thanks and appreciation, end quote, to William Steele, and noted the work was, quote, efficiently supervised and is of an exceedingly high grade, and the county has received full value dollar for dollar for the money invested, end quote, and that today expert assessments place the current value up to $100 million. Whereas the sculptor Alfonso Iannelli created masterpieces to adorn the courthouse, including the mighty spirit of the law, the family unit upon which civil society is built, and a great eagle stretching westward toward the future of America. And whereas the murals of John W. Norton sit under the beauty of the rotunda's elaborate dome and represent the compassion of justice, the American work ethic, a community's dream of progress, and the exemplary sacrifice of men and women for the defense of liberty and the protection of freedom during World War I. And whereas the building, originally a subject of public controversy and skepticism, has been on the National Register of Historic Places since 1973, has been a National Historic Landmark since 1996, has been named one of 200 key buildings in the United States by Whitney School of Design in New York City, and today is recognized as a remarkable work of craftsmanship. And whereas the courthouse has to this day, and we hope for many generations to come, provided essential services and countless noble endeavors for the public good, with restorative efforts pledged to preserve our past while recommitting our promise to future generations. And whereas the greatest value of the courthouse is the commitment to excellence, service, justice, and civil society that the people who labor and serve here represent to Woodbury County.
now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Supervisors of Woodbury County, Iowa, the rededication of the time capsule that's to come. We have withdrawn and now replaced within the cornerstone of this great courthouse, which reminds us to honor truths and traditions needed for the next 100 years, and thus pause for a moment of hallowed reflection with deep appreciation for those who came before us and have crafted such a building in a spirit of excellence for us to preserve for future generations. With that, Mr. Chairman, be it so resolved this 24th day of April 2018, and
Move it.
I will second.
Motion by Young, second by Taylor to approve the resolution. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Good job on that. We are at our 4:40 set time for the Communication Center. Public hearing and approval of the fiber lease with long lines. Mr. Sedgwick.
Good afternoon. Glenn Sedeby, Communications Director representing Starcom Executive Board. Starcom Executive Board makes a recommendation to the County Supervisors to enter into a fiber optic lease with long lines. Leasing some fiber optics. It belongs to Woodbury County Starcom between 6th and Lewis and Western Iowa Tech Community College.
Your recommendation we do this?
Yes.
Any other questions for Glenn on the public hearing?
Hearing none, I'd move the public hearing be closed.
I will second. Motion by Young, second by DeWitt to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Passes 5-0. Item B, approval of resolution fixing date for a public hearing for an agreement for new singular to a third amendment to a current tower lease.
Currently also representing Starcom Executive Board and recommendation to set a public hearing for a third amendment to a tower lease that Starcom leases tower space to New Singular.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry to interrupt you. So do we need to, going back to that previous item, approve the fiber lease with long lines?
Yeah, it needs to be approved.
Yeah, we just closed the public hearing.
So if we just backtrack to that one for a moment, I'd move to approve the fiber lease with long lines.
Second.
Motion by Taylor, second by Young to approve the fiber lease with long lines. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Passes 5-0. Item B.
This third amendment is with the tower site that belongs to Starcom Communications. It's at It's at our west tower, which sits on Sioux City School property. So we're in the process of having this school board approve the third amendment. Been in the process of working with the city and county legal to make sure that the third amendment is worded properly. We're required to have a public hearing, and we recommend that that be set for May 8th.
I move to set the public hearing on May 8th at 4:40 p.m.
Second.
Motion by Taylor, second by Ung. Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thanks, Glenn. Item 11, secondary roads.
Good afternoon. Ben Kuzler, assistant to the county engineer. Two items today. First is to consider approval of the plans for project LB B82-73-97. This is a bridge replacement project with a box culvert on a bridge that was damaged and is currently closed.
I'll move it. Second.
Motion by Radig, second by Ung, to consider approval for plans LB-7397, LB-B82-7397. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Passes 5-0. Item 11B, consider approval of county dust remediation policy.
I think Mark sent the policy with the backup. As per your request, I think follow the items that were discussed in the previous meeting. And he does have that policy ready for your signature. If approved.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
for the good of the public, and just, I know we have the backup materials and so on in front of us, can you explain generally what this does, kind of, lack of a better term, the before and after?
The purpose of this is for subdivision development, sign detour traffic, road construction, all road use in rural areas, and additional traffic on gravel sections of our roads. The guidelines are broke down into three subtopics, and one that you talked about last week was the ADT that exceeds 150 vehicles per day as determined by the Iowa DOT traffic counts. Would be at the county's expense. They would also consider the application of dust control on the roads with more than 12 houses per mile if they're adjacent to the dust-treated roadway. The next one would be a traffic count at or in excess of the 150 vehicles per day for 5 consecutive days during a 7 to 14-day traffic count with the county-owned meters. And those counts would be taken at least 2 other times during the spring, summer, and fall season to confirm high traffic counts that would be added to the regular dust control program until the next Iowa DOT count becomes available. And then I think that they would expect to see that the traffic count shows that the count meets or exceeds the level required for the dust control. The third one, the traffic count would exceed 25 vehicles per day per hour for more than 1 or more hours per day for 5 or more days during that 7 to 14-day traffic count, and that these counts would be taken at least 2 other times during the spring, summer, and fall seasons to confirm that high traffic count. The county's always used a calcium or magnesium chloride to do the treatment. And residents are still able to request treatment of their own roads if they want to at their own expense, and we would go out and prep those roads in advance of that treatment and also give them contacts so they could contract to do their own work.
So term you don't hear very often is quadrennial. That's every 4 years?
That's a Mark Nera term.
Okay, so that's the every 4 years highway
Yes,
DOT count?
that's correct. The last one was in 2015. We expect another one in 2019.
Okay, so it seemed like last week we talked about if there is a suspicion that those counts are higher, then there could be a request that could be made. Is that?
A special request for the DOT to come out between those periods?
Or not only for the DOT, but for county personnel. It seemed like we talked about language that would not have us necessary. Let's say between 2015 and 16, there was a huge uptick. And you say, well, okay, quadrennially,
Or every 4 years.
Right, or every 4 years. So you're going to have to wait till 2019. It seemed like we addressed last time that a request could be made, and I just want to make sure that that's something that this policy is going to allow for.
I think the intent is there. I did watch the minutes of last week, and we do have the materials to go out and do the testing and get the counts based on the policy.
Okay.
So I don't see any reason why those counts would not be accurate if Mr. Nera so ordered those under the stipulations of this policy. And they do follow-up testing 6 months or 8 months later in the spring, summer, and fall to show those numbers are still high. There's still events that may happen in between that cause distress, and as the public notifies us of those, certain actions will be taken to make sure that that's either a new traffic count or
but that's something that can, okay, that's something that can be made by request and not wait for the every 4 year. Okay.
Yes.
And then is this coming out of current budget?
As per the discussion yesterday, I'm not sure how that was exactly left. I mean, we do have a dust control budget of a certain amount in the maintenance part of it. Was the county attorney going to do an opinion?
Yeah, it sounded like that was a negative on.
Right, local option sales tax are not an option for the policy, for payment for the policy.
I think that's something you'll have to address with Mark next week. I know he may have to make a budget amendment for that based on what you tell him that he needs to do with this item.
Well, you can make it not effective till July 1, then amend that budget.
The policy here is written.
But we've set that budget currently, correct?
That is true, yes.
Yeah, so then you'd have to amend that one,
Right.
not both of them.
Not the current one. Right. You know, it's been an odd winter. We jumped from winter to summer almost now, and our dust control usually was not applied till after May 15th, depending on the weather. And normally in May and June, we do receive quite a few rains that help with not needing to apply this material. So I guess we cross our fingers to see how our budget turns out for that.
How much are you anticipating money-wise on this area?
I think Mark had talked about spending $73,000 last year, and I think based on his map, which I don't have in front of me, it may be some number over that. I can't.
I thought it was, the increase was 28,954 over where we are currently, right?
30% of the number. I don't have, he did not give me those figures, so unfortunately he had to leave town on Friday afternoon, and our discussion was quite short. I think he was under the impression that, based on our comments at the last meeting, that this policy was what the board was looking forward to. I don't know about the funding mechanism. That's going to be based on need as we get into the summer, and the price per linear foot to place the product based on which roads end up being over that 150 vehicles per day threshold.
And it will be immediately known which roads are under that threshold. There's no need for additional surveys?
Based on the 2015 traffic count, those are readily seen. And I guess each specific area would have to be reviewed on its own merits based on what we get on a new traffic count with our own equipment, if requested.
What do we have right now in gaming, Dennis?
We have about probably 180,000 unobligated. That's for next year. This year we're about 150,000. But I don't know if that would really be appropriate, because this isn't a one-time expense. This is going to be continuing expense every year. And it's out of secondary roads where you're mixing. We're already giving gaming revenues quite a chunk to secondary roads, to the tune of about $2 million.
Yeah, but that's a statutory requirement, right? That's not.
Well, that's a vote of the local option sales tax.
Right, but that's a mechanism of.
Yes. And I would think, on a bigger budget, $3-4 million budget, they could find the money somewhere.
Right.
Without using up more gaming revenues, because they are getting thin. You got a whole year next year to go yet.
If there is an overrun between now and July 1, would there be?
Take it from another line item. They can overrun this line or budget, but they can't. They can take from another budget and not spend that much, as long as the total doesn't go over.
But if they couldn't, then is there a budget amendment for?
There can be a budget amendment, but that has to be due by tomorrow. Because we have to get it published, approved, and published, and have the hearing by the last Tuesday of May.
And to your knowledge, there's no other items that would be considered? This would be the only one?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm willing to roll the dice and go to July 1 on amending budgets, and we don't know if it's going to be rainy or dry, or, I mean, if it's rainy, you wouldn't even need the dust control, but.
Can always come back to the board, correct?
That's right.
I mean.
So I would think for tonight's purpose, we could go ahead and move the 2018 revised Woodbury County dust control policy and let them come back if they need.
I'd say make it effective July 1.
My only worry is it sounds like, and I don't know, maybe there's going to be rains and things will be, but it sounds like there's a need or desire to have it revisited potentially, so I'd like
with you. I would rather just approve it now, and
Yeah.
I don't like for us to roll the dice on them living in the dust.
Well, it's one application.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yep.
So.
Before summer, and the next one would be in the fall.
Correct.
Right.
Well, middle of summer.
Okay.
We normally don't apply after October 1st.
Well, the way the weather's going, the summer may not be that long.
Well, we may have moved summer back, yes.
I'd go ahead and move it.
I'll second.
Motion by Taylor, second by Potabom. Any further questions or discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay.
I'll vote no. I'd like to delay it, but that's fine.
Motion passed 4-1 with Radig opposed. Thank you.
You bet. Did you want Mark to bring in anything next week as far as his budget's concerned on this item? Is it informational?
Anybody want to see it?
I would think he could wait till June, see where he's at, because we're going to pass the amendment. He's already sent a budget amendment in already for this time. So I'd almost wait and see where he's at with his total budget.
I'm fine with that.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's turn it down to Pat. Are we good? Do we have our dust control? Okay. Item 12, conservation, approval of nature center HVAC system and roof replacement.
Afternoon. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce some people that have came with us tonight that have been working on this project with us, and that's members of my conservation board. I have Aaron Galing, Cindy Bennett, and Susan Bowden. The other two were unable to get off because of work. And then we've also been working with Corey Metzger, who you've worked with before, and Shane from the Baker Group, and then Kenny Schmidt, Building Services. So we've all been working on this project. We've been before you once before when we came in to get a study. The Conservation Board did go ahead with that study, and you received in your packet, you should have received 26 of the 90 pages of that study showing you, and the rest of it was all technical stuff. And if you need that, I can get that for you, or Corey can send you copies. But my purpose here today is let you know that the roof study, we were pushing that, and I got that this afternoon. I have those figures for you, so hopefully we can do something with that as well. But we're here to request replacement of our HVAC system at the Nature Center. As you know, it's a geothermal system. There's 11 heat pumps that heat that building. One of those has gone bad.
That was 15.
Well, we were told it was 15. That's the information I had, but when the mechanical engineer came in and looked at everything, there's only 11. So should have been written up in your, hopefully it was 11 when I sent that in to you. I'm sorry if it was 15. But that's what I've been working off since we started, so my mistake. So our request is to, after looking at this as a conservation board, and the consultants and the engineers came out and Kenny came to our board meeting, the board feels it's in our best interest to move forward with working with the supervisors to replace the whole system and not try and do it one piece at a time. We've been told over and over by Building Services Director Kenny Schmidt they've had problems with that in the past in other county buildings, and our mechanical engineer can speak to that fact. So it's a big chunk, but this lasted 25 years, and it'll last another 25 years. If you have any questions, I will probably refer those to Corey, our mechanical engineer, because he knows more than I do.
So what is the square footage on the building?
That's a good question.
I don't know the number of that off the top of my head. We've got it in our calculations. Give me just a second here. So our calculations look at about 20,000 square feet.
20,000? Wow.
Now that may be a little bit high because there are some spaces, as we run our calculations, there are some spaces that have to be created that may not be realistic. So it may be in the 15,000 square foot range. I can verify the exact number.
You know, we talked, right now we're supposed to move in 2,400 cubic feet of air in that building a minute. We're moving 500. There's some issues there, and once we start working on this system, correct me if I'm wrong, Corey, but we're out of code then on ventilation, and we need to do some work on our ventilation system to correct that problem, because it has caused some problems with the heat pumps, freezing up downstairs. They've done some quick fixes, and so.
Mr. Chair.
Sure.
So what do you anticipate with utility costs that this is going to do? A, is it going to be more efficient, or B, it's going to be status quo because you're just replacing, or C, are you actually going to spend more because you're ventilating more that you weren't previously?
So with the recommendations that we've provided, I think you're going to see either maintaining the existing energy consumption for the building or a slight reduction. We are going to be ventilating more, but we're also going to be adding energy recovery if we follow the procedure that we've outlined. So it will improve the efficiency of the ventilation we are providing. Modern heat pumps should be slightly more efficient than the units that are installed in the space. We're also proposing putting in a variable refrigerant flow system down in the lower level in the office areas. Right now there's a single heat pump that serves that entire side of the building, and so I think it's 6 office spaces that are served by a single thermostat. So Dan's the fortunate one to have a thermostat, although I'm not sure that his office is always comfortable. That would be ground coupled as well. So it should improve the efficiency for that space, because that can actually do simultaneous heating and cooling with that system, so there may be some efficiency to gain there.
My follow-on is, I know Mid-American and it's going through the legislature severely reducing rebate potentials. is that to the point where it's negligible, or they're still under some sort of custom rebate, still some monies that can be reduced from the upfront cost?
There should still be some opportunity. What exactly that will be, I can't tell you at the moment.
And do we know the process for that?
From the last time we've talked about this and we're trying to work with them, it's kind of so we have a 6-month window from the time we file for a custom rebate till we have to have the project done. We can request extensions and things like that. But all the engineering has to be done before you apply for the rebate. So it's unlike what it was before, where we could go out and give them an idea of what we were going to do, Jeremy. And then they'd say, we're going to give you this many dollars. We actually almost have to have the study completely done. They're structured now before we can answer all their questions.
So here's my worry. And you know this process as well as anybody, if we start the project and they say, well, you're going to do the project anyway, so our incentivizing you to do the project is negligible or nil now, what's the gap that needs to happen between approving, hey, here are the plans and here's a study, versus we don't know if we're going to do this or not because we're looking to you? Or is that a moot point?
It's kind of, right now, I would not recommend any. So how we've been telling customers to deal with rebates now is kind of as a bonus. Wouldn't do a project because you're going to get a rebate. Just look at it as something you got the cherry on the top of the cake because you did it. Because the number of things, the cost for getting the rebate has been greater than the new rebate structure is allowed. So the extra engineering and the extra time somebody has in it to accomplish a rebate, from all the paperwork that you well know that has to happen, doesn't pan out against the amount that they're paying back right now.
So I hear you saying don't wait to start the program based on something that may or may not be worth the time and effort?
That's correct.
Okay.
It's still always worth the chance to go get the free money, but it may not actually be free money anymore, but with the amount of hoops you have to jump to get it.
And the last question, the controls, is this part of our, I'm sorry, I lose track of that sometimes.
This system, Dan's been working with Kenny. This will be tied in to your existing system so that Kenny can see everything down at Building Services, and that's part of your fiber optics that's coming out there that's allowing for that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I couldn't answer the area question for. It's about 14,000 square feet for the building.
So the 40,000 for controls, is that like an RTU controller, or is that?
No, that would be the central controls that would tie everything together and allow for monitoring and operation of the building remotely. So you can do trending of space temperatures, you can get alarms sent back to Building Services so they can know if something's starting to spew or misbehave with the system. Would
That size of building not benefit more from maybe a programmable thermostat, more so than a 40,000? I just don't see ever recouping $40,000 in efficiency versus programmable thermostats for that size of building.
So I guess each space will operate with the programmable thermostat. The concern that I would have, you need some controls for the building. You're going to spend some money on controls because you have pumps for your ground source system, your geothermal system. Those pumps have to have controls for them. So we can either spend more money on expensive pumps that have motors that when you have to replace them cost 4 to 5 times as much as a typical motor, or we can put in the cheaper pump and then you need something to control that cheaper pump. So we're going to have controls for that. And then I would strongly recommend, and in fact code would require, for some of the larger spaces in the building providing demand controlled ventilation, so basing that on carbon dioxide levels in the space. So there are 2 or 3 things in the building that are probably going to get you 2/3 of the way there for your controls cost. So I wouldn't look at it as a $40,000 cost on its own. I'd look at it as a premium of, if we integrate the...
So it may have been 24,000, instead it's going to be 40.
Right, and what that'll do is that'll allow you to integrate all of the heat pumps and the VRF system into that control system. And when I say integrate, it doesn't mean that it's actually going to control those things. It means it's going to monitor those items when one of them has an alarm, it's going to send it to the control system. So instead of not recognizing that there's a problem until it's too late and the compressor is completely burnt up, you may be able to identify that there's an issue, this unit's gone into alarm repeatedly. You can get a service tech out there to look at it and get that repaired up front. So will that $15,000, $16,000 pay back in 2 years, 5 years, 15 years? I don't know. I expect that it will pay back over the life of the system. Okay. I think you will see it pay back.
Pay them now or pay them later?
Yes.
And your energy costs will be less with the controls because you have to set it at the maximum ventilation if you're going to have a programmable thermostat and not have CO2 monitoring.
Yes. And there are some other things that we're going to do that aren't there right now. I think you'll see some savings in energy. I don't think it's going to be dramatic. It's not going to be 25 or 50%. Right now, the hydronic system that pumps fluid through the ground coupled heat exchanger, it runs constant volume. The heat pumps that it serves don't have isolation valves, so you're spending a lot of money pumping, a lot of money being a relative term, but a lot more money pumping that fluid than you need to. We can probably cut that by 60 or 70%. That 60 or 70% is not 60 or 70% of your total energy budget. It might be 10% of your total energy budget. So there are significant savings in some areas, and in others there won't be as much. And then with the increased ventilation, which we'd strongly encourage you to have because it's going to improve indoor air quality and humidity control, that's where we're going to offset some of those savings.
So on the mechanical systems, we show demolition of 12 units. Should that be 11 or
Nope.
is it still 12?
So there are 11 units that provide heating and cooling for the building. There's a 12th unit that currently provides ventilation.
Okay. And then heat pumps, it says 6. So are we only putting 6 in its place?
Which, do you mind telling me which sheet you're on?
I am on page 1. Well, here.
Are you looking at the cost? Okay.
So is it going to be a VR? So yeah.
Yeah. So that's the option that includes the VRF system. So we're not
VRF in the basement, heat pumps upstairs.
Yes, and there will be a few spaces potentially upstairs that we're looking at doing the VRF system as well. So the VRF system, a ground coupled VRF system will work really well for those small offices. VRF is one of those things that is applied, can be applied appropriately in some cases and doesn't make sense at all for other systems, just like any system. But when you ground couple it, it takes away a lot of the significant drawbacks that system can have. But the one challenge that we run into is while we have a number of spaces that are being served, we don't have a lot of load. So we're looking at potentially shifting a couple of spaces off of individual heat pumps to be part of that VRF system so that we can get the minimum capacity of that system up to a point where you can do both heating and cooling simultaneously, if that makes sense. So that's why it's 6 on the second option and I think 11 on the first.
Sure.
Do you know if the geothermal system that was, when it was installed, was that state of the art? Was it efficient for the time? Do you know?
From what I can see, I think so. The only thing that we wouldn't do similarly to the ventilation component of the system is not something we would do today. I don't think it was a bad design for the time. I'm not here to be critical of that. At the time, we didn't have the same system options we do today.
No, but I guess my question probably really is, it was efficient when it was installed, and probably, like I said, state of the art for the time.
Sure.
It just lived its useful life and then some. And we've probably gotten,
well,
who knows how much efficiency out of it as it is, plus a few years.
And the great thing is you've still got the ground coupled heat exchanger, which is the part that makes it so efficient. Mm-hmm. So we can reconnect to that, and that's got another 25 or 50 years left in its life. I mean, it'll be there indefinitely. So.
I guess the point I'm trying to make is it was as efficient from day one as it could be.
It's still very efficient by today's standards.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying that I think we got our money's worth out of it and then some just by the life that it's passed. So nothing lasts forever, nothing is maintenance free.
We're working on buildings right now that are 15 years old, replacing systems because they had problems with sizing of their bore fields or other issues. So you've gotten a very good life out of that system. And
Well,
What's the roofing information you have too?
Yeah, we talked about that, and that was one of the questions that was talked about. If we're going to replace the heating and cooling system, what's going on with the roof? You talked about that. That's been in the long-range plan. It's going on 25 years. That was one of the things Rick pointed out, that unfortunately I get to inherit these, but I said, you're supposed to have that done before you retire. But they had an R value of R10. It's got a 3.5 inch poly. It's a nailing insulation they nail their shingles into. So it's got an R10 right now. We think we need to do better. If we're going to put a state-of-the-art heating and cooling system in, we should be looking at least an R30 value in a roof. We had a study done, and I have those today. I'm sorry, if I'd have gotten them sooner, I'd gotten them to you, but the architect threw me numbers that if we were just to go in and replace the felt and the shingles, it's $100,000. And that's using quality shingles. He said, now, you can get by with cheaper shingles and lower your cost, but you're going to be back there again soon. You know what it's like if you do it on your house. You need to put a good shingle on it, you're going to be replacing them. And the way it looks, those were good shingles at the time because they've held up to everything that's been thrown at them for 25 years. Now, if we go to the R30 insulation, they're talking about having to take off the
sheeting,
the shingles, the felt, and then the old poly, what's it called, poly seal?
Polyiso, right?
Yeah, thank you. What he said.
Polyiso.
So they'll take that off, Keith, and then they'll put a new, the new nailer insulation, they call it, in there, and then replace the board. And then what they'll do is they have to extend those soffits around the edge of the roof line, but they will reuse the gutters and everything that we've had because everything should shift proportionately up. And so, but that's $200,000 to get the R30. But you're tripling your R value. And I think you can appreciate that, Jeremy.
Yeah. How long was Rick here?
41 years.
41 years. Do you ever call him and say it took you only 6 months to get a new geothermal system, roof, and fiber optic? I worry.
No, I'll let you do that because you know what? He knows where I live.
Okay.
So, but no. Rick had a lot of this stuff canned, ready to go. And my board can attest, they've discussed that over and over. I've gone back and looked at their long-range planning, and this has been looked at, but there's always been other priorities. They didn't want to come to the board. We tried to take care of things without having to come and ask for your CIP funds for the building, and so it just finally caught up to us.
So that does bring up, how do we pay for it?
That's a good thing because
now we're talking about what, 650?
Yep. We've been reviewing it with building services, Kenny and his assistant Ryan, and we've gone through 16, 17, 18 fiscal years of obligations, and we have unobligated funds about 1.3 million. That's a combination. We didn't do the intake, we shifted money around, they saved money on other projects. He's got a list year by year of all the different projects. So instead of taking out 19, it'd be suggested if we're going to do it all, take it out of this current year, we'll amend the budget and pay for it now instead of later. We do have the cash on hand, and we do need to spend the money because we're in the process of going to borrow the money. And we already have a budget for next year's debt service to pay for it.
That would be our suggestion, and this is kind of new information for us. As Dennis and I have just been working on budgets and borrowing amounts coming forward. And so Dan really wasn't in the loop on this, or hasn't been, because we just this past week discovered all of this information. So if you would approve this, it would be with 2018 funding, or that would be our suggestion.
Do we get reimbursed through the conservation fund? There's a conservation fund.
We pretty much have all
pay the debt.
For conservation, all the revenues coming in for probably the next 5 years through their programs.
Yeah. we've always looked at, and I understand what you're saying, but we've always, those revenues we've always put back into the parks and out in the county areas that generate that revenue, so we don't have to come to you for this. This is a county building, and by code, the county and the supervisors are supposed to take care of those buildings. And I think the Conservation Board and Rick have done a good job the last 25 years of keeping those costs away from you. But so we're asking for you to take it out of your CIP fund because we don't have the money to do it.
Could we not feasibly stick about 25,000 into? I think it actually probably changed the one heat pump for about 12, but 25 out there for heat pump exchange, and then just hold off on the other projects. I mean, you could feasibly do that, could you not? And just.
You certainly could. So you could replace individual heat pumps as they fail. The concern that we would raise in doing that, and up to you how you want to proceed, but if you do that, you're going to spend more money over the life of the building to do that over time, right?
Potentially.
It's likely because you're going to pay mobilization and other costs every time they come out to do that. The other concerns that we run into is you end up with different vintages of equipment from different manufacturers.
Different controls.
And different controls. So you end up with inconsistency, which can create issues from a maintenance standpoint. And then you also have potentially more interruptions to building operation.
Sure.
As you do that. So.
But the mobilization you'd only pay if you're bidding that out, and we currently have a maintenance contract, so as long as it's not over 25,000, correct, then we don't have to, or what is that amount?
We pay, I don't know how much a year, but that's just for the maintenance.
Yeah, you probably pay $20,000
the last 5 years, we spent like
maintenance.
$8,000, and 4,000 of that was above and beyond the maintenance contract for them coming out to replace pumps, fix seals, fix broke pipes that were leaking. So our maintenance contract doesn't cover a lot of the stuff that we pay for.
Right, and that's pretty minimal compared to what a building like one I work in pays.
Well, I don't know your building, but I know this one, and I've walked around it, and I see the pumps that are leaking oil and bearings that Rick was pointing out that you need to watch these every day you come in, or every Monday when you do your water inspections. Be checking those pumps. I mean, you've seen the condition of them, so
One other thing that's going to happen if you just replace one, which you can't, it's not going to fix the ventilation issue that you have right now. Your building doesn't ventilate, so it is kind of a sick building. So I mean, that's one of the other things you get. So rather than put one new tire on the car, and 3 years from now you decide, oh, you know, whatever, put a new motor in your car, and then you decide, hey, I shouldn't have this car. We're trying to bring this for you before you spent money heading down one path. We tell you now, let's go down a different path.
I get that, but like ventilation, could you not fix for more like 40 to 50,000?
We could make improvements to the ventilation system. You're not going to fix it for that. So the ventilation's a big chunk of the money there if you look at those numbers.
Okay.
The dedicated outside air unit, I think the unit itself is probably in the $40,000 or $50,000 range, and we can, I don't remember exactly.
Oh yeah, they're at 50,000.
And the reason for that is the way the building is set up. So we want to do energy recovery with anything we do because, as Dan said, right now you're probably moving 500, at most 1,000 CFM of outside air, cubic feet per minute of outside air coming into the building. You really need to be up in the 2,500 to 3,000 cubic feet per minute range. And as we introduce more ventilation without energy recovery, you're just going to increase your energy costs. We also have issues with the existing units down in the basement. There's a limited amount of space to get air down there. So we've proposed putting a unit up in the storage room up on the kind of the northeast corner of the upper floor, if you're familiar with that area. That unit can have louvers added through the walls. It can address everything we need to do there. But then we'd need to put in some variable air volume boxes as well to be able to control where ventilation goes in the building for those spaces that require demand-controlled ventilation. So that system is probably $125,000 to $150,000 of the cost when you look at everything that is associated with it. It will ensure that you've got good indoor air quality in the building and that we've got good humidity control moving forward, so we're not, potentially dealing with a mold issue down the road or that sort of thing.
I move approval of the Nature Center HVAC system and roof replacement.
Second.
Motion by DeWitt, second by Taylor.
I do have a couple of things here. Mr. Roddick brought this up already, but and maybe Dennis can chime in here, but historically, what has been the point where the distinction between when it's a conservation board repair or maintenance issue versus at what point does it come to the board?
I thought he addressed that. It's a county building, we own it, it's our problem. I think he addressed that.
Yeah, in Iowa code states in 350 that you shall take care of buildings, and maybe the previous director and the board has spoiled you on problems that they've taken care of and haven't come in for that. But that's where I know that if we'd have had fiber optic out there and had the proper, they would have been hooked up with building services a long time ago because they've wanted to do that. I know Kenny wants to be able to set those limits so my employees can't turn that heat up too far or down too far, and he'll control that from his office. So,
study was funded from conservation funds, was it not?
yeah, I came to you last time, and Kenny had money and said he could probably pay for it out of his building services. And I don't know how we got flipped around, and you said, well, why are we making your board pay for that? Well, I wasn't going to argue. We went with that, and my board paid for that study. But we came here to request building services to pay for that $9,000 study, and we had a long discussion about it. Remember that, Jeremy, how you're like, well, wait a minute, I can't tell your board to spend that fund. And so took it back to my board, and that's why they did that.
Yeah, and I haven't researched the specific issue of where your board's responsibility ends versus where our board comes in. The only reason I raise the issue is that, and you alluded to this, historically, we haven't received a lot of requests from conservation as far as maintenance of buildings that are used by conservation. Now, I mean, even like there's other conservation facilities that are titled in Woodbury County's name.
They produce revenue for us, and so we're able to take those dollars since they're producing revenue. Let's say Little Sioux Park. We're taking those dollars, and we know what we bring in for income from that. And then, so if we have a project like today, the beach project, they redid the beach, recreated, putting in a beach wall, a fence, taking care of drainage problems. We're putting that money back into that park there. Nature Center doesn't make us money. It's our office, and we've got 55,000 people that come through that building to see it, and then we have school groups that we serve. But it is basically our office building and it's a nature center, and it serves the public. So I understand what you're saying. You're like, wow, you haven't been here before. But I think you've been spoiled. I think they've done a good job of trying to keep those expenses down and not come to you and ask for that help. But this is just too big a thing for us to bite off.
The other question is, what's the bidding process that's being envisioned here?
That will be with working with these guys.
Yeah, we put together documents for a public bid. I think we're looking at a single prime contractor.
So is it an HVAC project and a roof project, or are you bidding it all as one?
I think the intent would be to do a single project.
Do a single. Well, if the motion carries this.
I don't know that that'd be the most beneficial though for low bids, would it?
I think from a coordination standpoint, I guess that's what I would recommend from a coordination standpoint, because then you've got one contractor that's responsible for making sure that safety's covered throughout the site. There's coordination happening between the work inside the building and the work outside the building. I don't know that you'll see a significant cost difference either way, frankly. Shane could probably speak to that more than I can. There may be some benefit to go into a CM approach or with multiple prime bids or something like that.
Well, could we bid them, like Supervisor Raddick said, bid them separately? Would that be what's the disadvantage?
One of the major disadvantages, and Corey hit on it a little bit, is your you're dealing with multiple contractors, therefore you are a go-between between those two contractors and a problem solver when each of those runs into problems. You have to coordinate the timing between the two.
Why do they have to be done at the same time?
It just makes sense to do it at the same time, I think. It wouldn't necessarily have to be done at the same time.
Because you could do your HVAC year one and quite frankly do the roof next year.
But I'll let
I mean, that-
Aaron speak to that a little bit.
So we looked pretty closely at numbers for different roofing options. You're going to have energy savings, potentially significant energy savings by adding the additional insulation on the roof.
That'll pay for itself more so than the HVAC.
Potentially. Although when you look at, there's going to be benefit for both. I don't want to speculate exactly what those numbers are. We have some information. We can certainly work on getting you more detail. But we looked at sizing of equipment related to the roof insulation value. We likely wouldn't see a significant decrease in equipment size because when you look at cooling sizing, that insulation, I don't want to get too dull here. I apologize if I am, but we're looking at conduction, right, through insulation, not solar loads or anything else. It's the conduction that happens through that. And conduction is driven strictly by temperature difference. So our equipment is sized based on cooling. That conduction temperature difference is pretty limited in the summer. I mean, you're talking 20 degrees versus the winter where you might have 70 or 80 degrees of temperature difference. So it won't reduce our equipment sizing dramatically. It'll be more of an energy savings.
I already get the answer there, so.
Sorry.
No, that's right.
One thing to add back to Josh's thing, when one of the first projects we worked on was the LED lighting project. And that was all, I mean, that was conservation, secondary roads, everything, Dorothy Pico. And that was all funded from the same place. I was just going to remind you that. That's nothing else.
So as far as what you're asking the board to do today, are you, is this authorization to go forward with drawing up the specifications and coming back and you'll have the public hearing at that time? What is it that you're asking?
Yes, I'm assuming we would have to go through that full process. Or anything that I can interject?
I would assume this is just the approval to move forward. Corey's going to have to bring an actual proposal with the scope of what they're going to do and a fee, if there's a fee involved in plans and specs, because you would receive a number from the CMPA. If we move forward with drawings and specifications on what that would be.
In the fee, yeah, that fee, and that covers everything. I didn't want to get hit for hourly rate, so that's going to cover, they're going to.
The answer to there would be another step where you would have approval of the design documents that somebody's actually going off of design. All you would be approving is for Dan to go, in my opinion, is for Dan to go out to get that proposal to come back before you.
And depending on how you approve moving forward, if you want to do both projects, we would recommend having the architect take the lead. If it's going to be a single combined project, architects typically take that role of leading the project and taking the lead on coordination. If it's two separate projects, then we do that all the time as well, where we're the prime consultant. But just for reference, if it's a single project, you'd probably be looking for a single proposal that would come from the architect.
Sure. So I had looked our building services director on this question. What's your preference moving forward? Is it to do it the way that Corey just mentioned, as far as having it bifurcated and he leads, or is it to have a single architect?
I believe having a single architect might be the best way to go on Dorothy Pico Nature Center.
Okay. So today, our motion could be to set that funding out of 2019 CIP and ask for
2018.
It says out of 2019, but you want it out of 2018.
Yes, 2019. We do have funds after we borrow the money to cover this total expense for the whole thing. And
but are we talking FY?
FY18.
Okay.
That we're actually going to borrow, so we amend our budget this year through our budget process we're working on now to include this project.
Okay.
And again, they're always estimates. We have to put an estimate in to have something, when it bids out, who knows where it goes.
So
it'll be out 18.
So if you can do out 18, of course,
Right.
this work won't get done by July 1st, so then you will do a carryover then?
Yeah, Kerry, you got 2 years to spend the money.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
Yes.
Would you be comfortable with the motion as it is, or do you want it reworded?
What is the current motion?
The motion was to approve Nature Center HVAC system and roof replacement.
Probably should clarify then funding source.
Funding source would be good, as well as the clarification that it's,
single project.
you're approving to go forward with drawing up the specifications. We still have to come back for the public hearing and the public bidding and all of that.
Do you want a dollar amount up to 450, or just?
I don't think you have to have the specific amount.
We will for the budget amendment. We'll have a dollar amount, but that's a pure estimate.
Well, I would move to go forward with a HVAC and roof system. Oh, there is a motion. Whose motion? Okay.
So just amend it to show.
Thank you.
You want the motion to approve the Nature Center HVAC system and roof replacement with funds from
2018.
Yes.
CIP.
You're approving proceeding with the project.
Yes. Can you write down what I meant then?
I know that you know, but you know what you're talking
You're saying you're not approving the project, you're approving moving forward with the project as one and two projects.
Yes. Yes.
Is there a second?
You have a second.
That's him? Okay, so you are happy with that? Okay. Any further questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay.
And I'm going to go nay, because if it was my own money, I don't think I'd do it.
Motion passes 4-1. Radig opposed.
Well, I'll try to make anything I come for easier next time. But thank you very much. And I know my board appreciates it.
Thank you all for coming.
And I do appreciate all your work on this. I'm not.
No, I understand.
Yeah, so.
I get it. It's business. I understand.
I'll talk to you afterwards.
Reports on committee meetings. Yes, sir.
We had our final historic committee meeting, and I won't go into all the details, but I just want to commend the work of, you get in trouble if I miss somebody, but Jim Jung and Lisa McNeil and Matthew Ong and Kenny Schmitz and Pat Gill and Shane Albrecht, Ed Storm, Terry Glade, who am I missing? John Malloy and WCICC. They have put in countless hours into making this historic treasure really presentable in terms of art and literature and videography and website and proclamations and time capsule displays. And I think it's just a wonderful testimony to these people, Judge Walsh, and what I think will do this community proud. So I think they all deserve a lot of recognition for that. And May 1st to the 5th. Look forward to a lot of great events, starting with Law Day. And if you want to go to the banquet, tomorrow, by close of business, Karen and Heather will still take your money to be able to come to the banquet, which is going to be a fabulous dinner, and two of the top historians in the nation, no exaggeration, will be here to teach us about the value of what we have.
And that was $5?
That was $5 for you, but a promise of a bag of chips for your dinner. So
$50.
The whole box of the leftover chips.
How much was it?
It's 50.
50. Oh darn. Okay. Well then, what time on? It's May 4th, right? Friday, May 4th.
May 5th, 5:30 starts.
So it's Saturday, May 5th?
Right. Yep, so this is Tuesday to Saturday.
So the banquet is on the 5th?
Right, yep.
I thought you said it was on Friday earlier.
I may have misspoke.
Okay, so what time is that then?
5:30 starts there'll be a harpist, champagne, a full course dinner, interpretive dance, some different things. So Friday is not the day, Saturday, 5:30.
Now you're thanking everybody sound like an Oscar award ceremony where you just ran out of breath trying to thank everybody for it all, but do you have anything to add to the meeting?
Sure. Thanks to the Journal for what is going to be a very good insert on Sunday from the information compiled by the committee and different reporters. And I believe Supervisor Taylor's already leaked some of those out into the public. So
there's a stack at the security checkpoint too for those that are walking in or out. There's a pile of them up there. Anything further?
No, it's coming fast. It's going to be a great week of events, and we look forward to hosting a lot of dignitaries and unveiling a lot of different media for people to enjoy the courthouse and reference even on YouTube when the centennial's over. So it's been a good investment of time and effort.
Many, many hours and sleepless nights, I'm sure, for those on the committee.
And before I pay the $50, I just want to clarify that Matthew is not the one doing the interpretive dance.
That's correct.
Okay.
Also, checks do need to be received by tomorrow.
And made out to Woodbury County.
Yeah.
Okay.
Woodbury County.
They will be paying me to not dance. Mr. Potabom or Radig, any reports?
I did have a meeting today. I paraphrased your press release there for everyone in the room. I think it went over all right with the providers in the crowd, but we did have a little bit of disagreement on whether or not we do need to have a new 2080 agreement. I did let them know that there's some conversation. It's going to have to be done probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks and figured out. So I don't know how we get everyone on the same page, or if Director Foxhoven's going to have to see that we can't come to an agreement and need an exception. We'll have to figure that out, because clearly we're not in the current 2080. We have rescinded that, so we need a new one to operate under, or we're all alone. State law requires us to have a 2080, so I would like for us all to come forward with an interim one for the next year. And that's it.
Any other citizen concerns?
I'm going to beat you to it. I couldn't hear when you guys were talking about the dust control. Oh, Ashley, 180th Street. Sorry, I forget that. I couldn't hear what we're doing, how we're moving forward with this.
So we revised the dust control policy to come under the current thresholds that are currently in place in order to be able to have, at the request of citizens who have concerns, and if I misspeak, please chime in, but that request can be made for counts that are more frequent than every 4 years. And if it falls below that threshold, it's now 150 vehicles per day, whereas in yesteryear it was 200 or 300. So this is going to lower that threshold down, and hopefully by that give some relief to those areas that have seen increased traffic and thereby increased dust. So it should be, cost approximately $28,900 additionally in dust control measures by the county engineer's estimates. So we're hoping that helps to address some of the problem.
So are they recounting the road then? Or are they going by the 2015?
By the request, the way that the policy was suggested is that by the request of citizens that count could be more iterative than every 4 years. So the way I'm imagining this, the last time was 2015. If a request came to say, we suspect that we're above the new threshold of 150, we would like to have that recounted using county measures that can be in place. Am I fairly summarizing that, Ben?
Probably we'll have to do another traffic count in the area of question, just to document the number that Mark had sent me before. I think it was 175 the last time we counted.
Okay.
So based on that policy, that would be what would be happening.
All right. Thank you.
So just to cut to the chase, since we know they want it, are you going to wait for them to officially ask you, or can we just ask you to count that?
Question for Mark Nera, which I will ask him on Monday. I would expect that there'll be some conversation. I would ask that your group, someone from your group, call our office on Monday and talk to Mark about the number that he had previously quoted that was counted and what we're going to do from that point on, since the policy is now going to be in effect.
Okay.
Thanks.
My name's Kai Ahrens. My parents live at 1642 180th Street. I'm moving in there. But with the talk tonight, so right now nothing is still going to be done about the dust control on the road. Am I correct?
No, I think that's incorrect. We lowered, so the threshold before was at 175, right, but that wasn't an official.
200. I think it was 200.
No, when it was counted by our county engineer, it was at 175. That didn't meet the threshold, nor was it the official DOT count from 2015. What we did tonight is say, so this is the 175, we lowered the threshold to 150, which if we go by that 175 count, would qualify to treat that area with dust control. We need to have them go out and verify that that continues to be the same level of traffic. But under that premise, the answer would be yes, that we would be taking action that you did not qualify for previously to the board's action tonight.
Now, also, I went out to see my parents today, visit them for a very short time during my lunch break. But while I was there, in less than a half an hour, there were 7 semis hauling manure that went across that road in a half an hour. And I have a video on my phone of showing a semi going up 180th Street, and there was a 4-way stop sign at 180th and Buchanan. You might as well take it down, because they're going up a hill and they don't even stop. They just keep hauling trucking as fast as they can to make it to the top of the hill. And they do the same thing going down here. So the traffic levels, and I grew up out there my whole life. I understand farming. I love farming. I don't have a problem with it. But the farm that is in question for this is so big. They produce a tremendous amount of grain, tremendous amount of hay bales, on and on and on, because it's such a large farm. If you put a traffic counter at the corner of 180th and Buchanan, they're going to go a different direction. The only way to get a true traffic count in that area is you're going to have to go on all 4 roads at the same time, because you will find another way to go around it. So, and my last question is there any type of gradation requirement on the gravel that is put on the roads?
Yes, we have what's called a modified sea gravel that was modified from what the DOT has for sea gravel.
Okay.
And I'm sorry. We do have a specification for gradation. It's called a modified C. It actually requires a coarser material than what the Iowa DOT requires for a Class C gravel. Those gravels are tested every 1,500 ton by the contractor that supplies them. Those gradations are then supplied to our office. And then we also, based on our construction schedule with our technicians, take samples with the contractor to verify that they're within limits.
I work for the DOT, and I work in the material department. That's why I was asking about the gradations. Driving around looking at different piles that the county has, it seems like it's awful dirty. It seems like there's a lot of clay, fine particles in it. So if it's supposed to be a coarser material, I might.
Actually, if we had more clay in it, that would be a great thing. Or silt is our problem.
It would produce a lot of dust.
Actually, clay help binds it together. But anyway, the gradations are on file, and that is a public view. If they want to call, they can certainly see what kind of gradations that we have. Producing gravel is more of an art than a science, as you know, with the materials, because when you take out of the ground, you're actually running through screens trying to produce a gradation limit that meets the criteria.
Absolutely. Like I said, I'm 50 years old. I've been out there for 45 years, and it sure seems a lot dustier in the last 5-10 years than it ever has been. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Any other citizen concerns?
You know, my name is Dan Peterson. I'm with Whiskey Creek, the farm that they're referring to. To clarify a few things, I don't have 7 semi-trucks that can haul manure. I have 4 and a straight truck. Today we had a straight truck going there and 1 semi going to a field down 180th and Buchanan. And over a 4-hour period from noon till, 11 till like 3, we hauled 17 loads of manure. So I went up and down the road 17 times over a 4-hour period. I'm not sure that considers us as excessive amounts of traffic. We did have a couple of other semis going a different direction, and they were going a shorter route and hauling more loads per hour. And we actually went out and watered that road today as we were on it. So I just wanted to clarify a few things because I wanted you to know the truth. So if you have other questions, let me know.
Any other citizen concerns? Board concerns, were you coming up?
I'm just going to say, I don't know where all these trucks are coming from. We have more than 7 trucks that went down the road today. That's right. I know, I sit there. My husband would sit at the window and watch out. And I'm not saying they're all yours.
Other people farm them too.
I'm just saying we have the traffic on there. I'm not saying that's all his. And I'm not blaming him.
If you're,
it's the county's road.
come up and might as well do it right.
We have never wanted to make it against the Peterson farm. We just want to have the roads so they're not so dusty, so we can live out there, because we have nothing against them. I mean, and it's the county's road. It's not his road to take care of. It's your road to take care of. And we just would appreciate somebody to, we did this several years back. It's not that, it's just happened this year. We've been fighting this for years. We can't even sit outside. Because we can't breathe.
We went through that a couple of weeks ago. We're acquainted with it, yeah.
But so I'd like to have something done so we can get something done this year instead of having to fight it every year and every year.
Well, I think we're moving in the right direction this evening, so hopefully this will take care of it.
Hopefully the dust will settle on this.
Oh, I had to get one in.
You're welcome. Are there any other citizen concerns? Board concerns. I was contacted today yesterday via phone and today via email. There's a gentleman out of, I think, Elkhorn, Nebraska that has a product that he applies to hog farm manure pits. And he claims that it reduces the odor by a minimum of 50%. And with a little bit more treatment of this application, it reduces it further. I haven't looked at all the material yet, but it sounds kind of promising, especially for those of us that live in a rural area that may need to worry about a pig farm in our neighborhood. Sirs?
We don't have a county order ordinance, do we?
Nope. Any other board concerns? We are adjourned.